Every Indian wants to be in the industry. Every mami, chachi, tai who's sitting at home keeps asking me कि मुझे role दे दे, and I offer them an aloo roll or a paneer roll because that's the only role I can give them. Earlier in a film, hero heroine met, looked into each other's eyes, cut to a song in Maldives, cut to a song in Mauritius. Nobody is questioning. They've just gone there for entertainment. You buy a burger for like $200. If it's tasty, you enjoy it. You pay $1,200 for that same burger. Now you're expecting gourmet shit in it. Now you don't want anything normal. You want only avocados right there.
Is the impact of Netflix and Prime cannibalizing the theatre experience, or do you think there's something else going on as to why people aren't going to the theatre as much?
Producer is still running a business. No producer is making a film to make a loss. People call it nepotism, but I wouldn't call it nepotism. A doctor's son is always a doctor. Many people are here for the glam of it. Many people are here to just be in the industry and say that, oh, I work for the industry. But do you really work for the industry? If you really work for the industry works for you. Everybody gets a chance. You just have to be at it. If you didn't get a chance, you quit a little early.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Everyday Empires here. I'm sitting across from the wonderful Abhishek Kapur, a wonderful director of some amazing movies, and made your directorial debut, I believe, last year with Skyforce.
Yes, I did.
Incredible movie, action movie. We've just been talking a little bit about it, and I believe Akshay Kumar starred in it, which is amazing. I want to learn how it was working with him and other big name actors.
Phenomenal, but yeah, we'll talk about it more.
I'm looking forward to it.
Loved him.
What I find so fascinating about your life, actually, we were just saying this, just as we said action, was that the world through your eyes is what we want to get out of today. And your world being in Bollywood, one of the most exciting industries, probably globally, arguably, and you having such an incredible role as a director, I think we'll bring out some powerful conversations today. So I really appreciate your time, sir. Now, before we get into the excitement of the role, we want to understand how you became a director. I understand you've been in the industry since 2010, but share a flavor with the audience. Sort of, how did you become a director, or how did you get into the industry itself?
So yeah, everybody comes with funny stories. I have a funny one too. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. Most of us don't know at a given point. We just pretend that we know it all. But there was a lot of things. There were a lot of things which I knew I didn't want to do. One was never wear a shirt and a tie and go to a corporate job. I was very sure I'm not going to do that. Not that I just thought I'm not fit for it. I had a father's business which he wanted to run as per him, because he's a dominating father and he was doing really well and he wanted just to do the business as per him. I was like, if I enter this, I'm not going to do something great because I'm just going to follow him, and he's anyways. I thought he was the best at it, so I could just be assisting him and not learning much, and not do anything that I wanted to do. So then, obviously, films. Every Indian wants to make a film. Every Indian wants to be an actor. The aspiration, the stars, the actors, the movie, the world itself was, everybody wanted to get into it. And I'm just one of them who wanted to get into it. Everybody thinks being an actor is an easy job. That's the most difficult job. It's not easy to be an actor. It's the most difficult thing to be an actor. And that's where I thought, okay, even I could be an actor. Didn't work out. I very soon realized that acting is very difficult and not everybody can do it, not cut for it.
What did you find most difficult, if you don't mind me asking?
So basically, we just think that to do what you're not feeling at that moment is very easy convincingly. But unfortunately, the camera catches everything. If you're not feeling it, if you're not up to the mark, if you're just trying to act, actors don't act. Actors start feeling what they have to feel at that given point. At least the good ones do. And that doesn't come very easily. If right now I have a emotion in my head due to my life, I have to play a certainly different B emotion right now. It's not very easy. Okay, we all think that we go out on parties, we have had a bad day, we have had a fight, we pretend, but that's not pretending. We actually go to the place and we actually change our moods and we get into the mood, and that's how we start behaving the way we want to behave in a party. But here, as an actor, you have to keep, there's a different scene that you're doing, the very next half an hour later, you're doing something very different from a very different part of the film, and you still have to keep justifying it being the right part of the character. It's very difficult. It has to come very naturally. It's a skill.
So you discovered acting wasn't for you.
Yes, and then I was like, what do I do? Because again, I didn't know behind the camera. I didn't understand what all happens. So not many people, I would say, still know what happens behind the camera. But there are minimum of 150 people on every given movie set giving their lives out to make that movie. And fortunately, unfortunately, we see the actor, we see the director, we know who the producers are, but there are many other people who are working equally hard. So I wanted to get behind the camera and understand what I want to do, what I want to learn. So that's how I told my father somehow knew Raj and DK at that point, and I got fortunate. And they came from a very indie film kind of a background. They had made an indie film back home in US. They had just made 99, and they were still like growing as directors. Their production house was still growing. They were very new to the country, and they just met me. They just found me to be, they just said, yeah, why not, just come intern with us. And I was like, oh really, I can. And that's where I got into that circle where these directors were beautiful, because they actually were not from the industry and didn't have a proper, I would say, hierarchy business where they had this guy's playing that role, this guy's playing. They themselves were doing everything for the film because they were extremely passionate to young people who had come to the city from the states. They had amazingly paying jobs, quit that, and suddenly come here with only their savings to blow them to make their passion come true. So they wanted to do everything that would make the film work, and that's what they expected of everybody. So I entered a setup where I was given a chance to do anything and everything that I knew. And coming from the business background, being from the city, they were not from the city. Shore in the city was more about Bombay. The shoot was here. I knew a lot about the city. So they let me come and contribute and help in each and every way. And that's how I knew, oh, this is what an assistant director is. He helps the director with whatever his vision is. And that's how I continued my journey. I became in house with those guys, and I started working with their production house for sure in the city, which was one of the best experiences. Thank you, Raj and DK, that I'm here still. And I went on to being an permanent part of the production house, which was D2R Films. I did Go Goa Gone with them, which is one of my most loved and cherished shoot experiences of my life. So yeah, I entered the industry with Raj and DK behind the cameras as an intern and learned what an assistant director could do. Not being clear that I want to direct one day, just to be on set and to understand how films are made.
Being an intern and then becoming a permanent part of the infrastructure. What was that story like? What did you do to prove to them that you were the man for the job?
So, as an intern, I'm sure that they had limited expectations from a guy who's just come, who doesn't know anything about filmmaking. But touchwood, by God's grace, I was passionate about proving myself to them, and I was doing anything and everything that I could do. So I did cross the line of an assistant director. I helped them in getting locations that they wanted in Bombay. So how films work is the director has a vision. He's pitched it to a producer. The producer has agreed to make his vision. The director will have a team, which is the direction team, which will take out every requirement that's there to make his vision come true. But there's a production team who the direction team will hand over every requirement that they want, and they in turn get it for us. So a director wants a scene in a coffee shop, he'll explain it to us. We'll figure how the coffee shop is. We'll tell the production team, okay, we need this kind of a coffee shop. They'll get us 10 options, and we'll see them, oh, creatively this one looks good, we'll take it to the director. So there's a whole chain of people who are working. But like I told you, they were very indie kind of filmmakers. They were like, okay, there's no line. If you get a location, you get it, you get something. Producer can be a creative person can be a producer. They didn't stop any of them from getting out of the format. They were very okay to take suggestions from anybody who's on set and helping them, because they thought they're not from the city, they're from US, and their way of filmmaking is a little different. And if anybody else who's from Bombay could contribute, who understands the city better, they let us do that. So I help them getting a few locations. If we want a car, there's a way that we rent a car and how it comes onto the in onto a film. But me being me, if they wanted a taxi, I used to just wave on to a taxi guy, just get the deal sorted, be the guy who was like, okay, you want a taxi for the day? Hey, hello bhaiya, this is we want you for a day. Shooting karoge? Ha, shooting karenge. Take this money, come. And they're like, wow man, you're actually cutting costs, because if I got the taxi in the right way, the taxi would have costed me, let's assume, 3,000. And now you stopped, waved at a guy, and you told him in 1,000 rupees, would he do it? He's very happy to be on camera. He's very happy that his car is coming in a film, and you saved 2,000 for us. So that's how they let me do anything and everything. They, in fact, pushed me to do a lot more than I would want to do, or no, actually not would want to do. I would want to do everything, but should have done on that
Mm.
project. And that's how they just realized that I have some potential, and they wanted to keep me around, and they just thought that it's a good collaborative effort where I can make things available for them, whatever they want. So I was kind of doing production also.
For someone that wants, I'm trying to visualize someone that's passionate about the industry right now. Maybe they're younger, maybe they've either just graduated or they're sort of in their late teens, and they're thinking, I want to get into Bollywood. And what I'm hearing in your story is you've got that chance of becoming an intern somehow, some way. You just made it happen. And then you proved yourself consistently over time. And of course, you got results. Otherwise, why would they keep you around? So I think it's a very realistic picture. If I was sitting here and I said, Abhishek, I want to become involved in the industry somehow, and I said, please give me an internship, sir. I want to work with you. What would you expect of me from day one?
Go beyond what's expected of you. Just make sure that if you get that opportunity to just enter and penetrate to this industry right now, which is not very easy, because like I said, this industry is, every Indian wants to be in the industry. If given a choice, I'm sure everybody wants to act. Every mami, chachi, tai who's sitting at home keeps asking me कि मुझे role दे दे, and I offer them an aloo roll or a paneer roll because that's the only role I can give them. Many people are here for the glam of it. Many people are here to just be in the industry and say that, oh, I work for the industry. But do you really work for the industry? If you really work for the industry works for you. Give that extra push.
How would you think that someone who has, say, no relationship with the industry itself, and let's say they're living in a different part of India, and they desperately want to become part of Bollywood, how would they go about getting that little chance, however way it looks?
Okay, so here I would have to admit that I was very fortunate. It's not easy. It's not easy because there are so many people. I get at least 100 messages per month from people who want to intern, from people who want to direct, people who want to be assistants. But how do I even filter? I don't know them. Raj and DK took me at that given point because they knew my father, they knew he's a businessman, they had interacted with him, they met me. I got lucky there. But when a lot of people approach us, we don't even know if these guys are genuine people. They really want to be in the industry. They just think it's easy. I don't know what the intention is. So it's very difficult. And I would say if you're really passionate, you'll have to struggle a bit. Unless you're very lucky, like I was, luck favors you, then you just meet one of us some one day and we just hire you, and it's very easy. If you're again fortunate and there's a recommendation, that's the easiest way. People call it nepotism, but I wouldn't call it nepotism. A doctor's son is always a doctor. So, yeah, if you come through that route, that's a little easy and that's not a bad thing. Make something that you can show to somebody who gives you his time.
Mm.
Because right now, when I meet you as a person or in person and I don't know you, how will I ever judge you? Because I'm going to meet many people who want to do the same job. So if you want to have an edge, prove yourself in that 1 minute or 30 seconds. See, right now, everything like we spoke earlier before the interview started, it's mobile phones. Yeah, just shoot something. Just it has a mic, it has a camera, it has everything. Life is very easy. So now you have to get my attention or that person's attention who you want to work with within that one meeting, within that elevator conversation or whichever conversation. So be ready with something which is a little out of the box and which is catchy, which will grab my attention, and I will take your number and save it.
I really liked how you said sort of, yeah, fine. There's a bit of nepotism, there's a bit of cronyism, there's an insight. There's always going to be this because
100%.
life is such. If your parents are actors, of course you're going to be an actor. My father was an accountant. Not necessarily, of course, I'm going to be accountant, but there's numbers in my veins, so it's natural for it to be a discussion at the very least. But one thing that you said that really caught my attention was that you actually have to still prove yourself. You actually still have to have passion for the industry.
100%.
You can't walk in and say, I'm such and such person, give me the lead acting role. I imagine that would turn you off
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
But also, if they're not talented enough, it ruins your whole vision.
Exactly. So it's very different. We're talking about an intern level who's not done anything and wants to get into. So I have zero recommendations from him for him unless he comes from somebody I know. So he surely has to prove that he's passionate about the industry, about the craft. Everybody could do it differently. Somebody could make something, show it to us. Somebody could have a story. Somebody could have a journey. But just be very sure that like we discussed, the attention span of human has reduced from watching a 4 hour film to watching a 1 hour 50-minute film right now. So you have only that much attention left to meet a person and get what he wants to offer. So just be ready to pitch yourself and keep trying. It's going to be difficult. Take up any jobs, just be around. You have to be around in the industry doing weird things, doing not the things you eventually want to do, just to meet the right people on the right film set to do what you want to do. There are many people who have started off something else. There's a very, very, very big director who I've worked with. Actually, I can take his name because I'm very fond of him and he's also very fond of me. He's the director of Chava, which made 650 crores right now. That guy comes from a camera assistant's background. So he was a camera assistant.
Interesting.
His journey starts way below than that, but he kept going. He initially didn't have the means to be a director, or maybe just maybe language was a barrier, maybe education was a barrier, maybe whatever stopped him, but he was at it. And from being a camera attendant to being a DOP, I mean, he was a cameraman of amazing films in India, including the first underwater film that he did with Akshay Kumar. Then he proved himself as a DOP. Now he proved himself as a director, and now he made India's one of the biggest earning box office films. But at that point, he just entered the industry the way he could. So just get into it and do whatever it takes to just be around and keep struggling, stroke growing. Everybody gets a chance. You just have to be at it. If you didn't get a chance, you quit a little early.
I'm very sorry if you now have swarms of people coming up to you doing dance moves or something unusual, but I'm hoping you get a couple of interns out of it.
Yeah, but I understand all of them. I kind of respect all of them because everybody's trying to. Yeah, I understand them. So it's okay. When they come, I respect them and I'm like, okay, I can't do much for you right now. But yeah, that's it. That's at it. Yeah, there are weird people who approach weird in weird ways. But like I said, if they make an impression in that way, if they grab my attention that way, you never know. I might just hire one of them because he just did that. So just do whatever it takes, man.
And I think it's worth rehashing here because we're on the Everyday Empires podcast. We're here to make entrepreneurship more relatable. And people might be thinking, well, hang on a second, you've got a director of Bollywood movies as a guest. So I want to cross that bridge. I want to make that connection. And I don't think I've even asked this even before the shoot, but do you see yourself as an entrepreneur?
I come from a business background, so I would love to. And I would always say that people who are working in our industry, it's great if we have a parallel income or we're doing something else in our life. It really helps us to do what we do for the industry, because here nothing is very permanent, or it's not always do you get the fruits of your hard work. So if you have a parallel avenue and if you're good at it, 100% explore it. Have a fallback option.
A lot of what you do is you follow a passion. But then over time, and we had this with some of our other wonderful guests, Nayab most recently, Nayab, she's a wonderful poet, and I asked her a very similar question, and what we began to establish was actually if you looked around the structure around her, she has a lot of entrepreneurial things, a lot of business like structure. She has a manager that looks after her finances. There's an element of sales, not only from her social media but also from again from her management team as well. She came on a podcast to sort of push her personal brand out there and keep that motivating, keep that pushing forward. She's traveling around the world and trying to win business and across the world by running her shows through her global audience. These are all very entrepreneurial things. So one
Completely.
one thing that when I try to talk about what does making entrepreneurialism or making entrepreneurship relatable actually mean, it's about saying, well, all the things that you just described there about the passion that you had, that you got an opportunity and you proved yourself over time. A lot of these things are, a business owner. I got my first contract. I proved myself with a client. Then they recommended me to another client. I built my brand. I continue to execute. I continue to service more and more clients and have bigger contracts. It's very similar to what you're doing in the perspective of, or did, where you became an intern, you got that opportunity, you took the most of it, and you built your personal brand around getting stuff done, around being passionate, around learning about, what specific role you wanted to play. on the set, your first part, if you don't mind me saying, was just creating value. Just what can I add as much value as I can
Correct.
to the people around me? And then building out, and carving out a place for yourself. And now to a stage where you're your own director and you have your own quote unquote business and your own people and your own team and your own um, brand and personal brand, and you've been working with some amazing actors over the last few films as well. So all these things are entrepreneurial. I don't know if you have ever sat there and thought, I'm running a business here.
So, yeah, what I would say, if I as a director start thinking that I'm running a business, wouldn't be the best thing. But yeah, I am the part of the business which the producer or the financer is running. So if you're the owner of your company, I'm not, I'm somebody who you hired to make profits for you. So I am right now not running the business, but I am enhancing your business in a way, because the producer is still running a business. No producer is making a film to make a loss. Eventually, when they even approach a film, they do think of, yeah, they want to make that film because of the content of it, because see, that's where our industry is a little different. But I'm sure we there are clients you also choose. You want to work with this client, you don't want to choose with for your own reason.
Correct.
So that's content for us, the producer chooses. But at any given point, the producer does want to make profit, and he chooses the right guy to do the right thing. So the business part of it comes from the producer or the studio end, and we are all hired to get the product the profit that he needs.
Some of the people that you worked with, because I hear and you can see quite clearly through a lot of the films that you've created, and particularly Skyforce, for example, you've worked with Akshay Kumar. These are big names. The people that have honed their craft, and these are extremely talented people. Um, how do you, as a director, particularly on your debut, manage such talent?
Here, I would say the experience comes into the picture, because I've been on sets and I've seen a lot of directors do it. I've learned from them. I don't know. It's very fortunate for me that I have been in this industry but met only good people. All except for one director who I would not like to name, who I have worked with very early in my life. All my directors, let it be Raj and DK, let it be Amar Kaushik, let it be Lakshman Uttekar, let it be Nitesh Tiwari. I've worked with big directors who are extremely great human beings, and they were all willing to teach. So I have learned a lot from great people who I've worked with, and really big and great directors who have been parting their knowledge with me and have been okay with the idea of me learning under them, and actually contributed in my journey in a very good way. So that's how I learn how to be with an actor or how to be on a set. That's my experience, I would say.
They say that sort of the best leaders are judged by not their own achievements, but by the achievements of the people that they worked with.
Yes.
Because, as you said, they were great communicators, they were great people at showing what they did and teaching others to be great as well. So I'm excited we're catching you at this time of your journey, because you've made your debut last year. I imagine you've got some exciting projects coming up naturally. I mean, the obvious question that comes to mind, which I think is worth exploring, is what makes a great director in your view?
What makes a great director? There are many ways, because see, now I've worked with so many great directors and everybody had their own journey. With Raj and DK, it is their characters which are like so great, and how they put them into a situation and how they extract the story of their characters in those situations. The way they narrate and the way they take their stories ahead is what makes them great. Like, I would say, like, they would never put a comedian into the script just for the comedy part of it. They would get the humor out of the main lead. If they're making a family man, the Manoj Bajpayee is the one who's doing comedy, is the one who's doing action. They build a character and they put him into situations where they get everything out of the character that the audience wants. So that's their way of making into becoming great. When I go on an Amar Kaushik set, who I've learned a lot from because I've done many films with him. Amar boy, by the way, was first AD on Go Goa Gone with Rajan DK. That's where me and Amar met. That's
Oh,
back in
wow.
2012. And then when Amar was debuting with Stree, that's when he came to me and he's like, now it's your turn to become a first AD. Now I'm directing. So with Amar, I learned that Amar has a script, and it's a great script. But for him, the process is always ongoing. When you go on set, Amar is never satisfied with what we're going to do today. The hunger is their hunger is per hour appetite of Amar's hunger to make this hour the best hour of the film is constantly there. So that's what I learned from him, that you know what, you have a great script in hand, you have thought that you're going to do it this way, but why stop? Let's go on. It's not been recorded right now. He still has the chance of making it better now, and he keeps going at it, making it better till the, maybe he'll take the 30th take on a given day, because he still thinks he can make it better. I worked with a Lakshman Uttekar who has a very different approach of saying a story. His main idea comes from staging a scene, how he stages a scene, and how once it's staged, how will the people act accordingly. So there are different ways that can make you a great director. Nitesh Tiwari comes from an ad world. So I worked on Dangal, which was one of my best experiences. In Dangal, because Amir Khan being a perfectionist, Nitesh sir knowing everything that he wants from the film, we actually blocked every scene that the actor would on that given day do. We recorded everything and showed it to the actors, showed it to every technician. I'm like, this is what we are planning to do. Are you guys in sync? Okay, no, let's do it this way. Amir had suggestions or whoever. That process of doing it first once and then replicating it again and maybe enhancing a little here and there on the move. But we exactly knew how Dangal would turn out to be.
Hmm.
With Amar, you never know how today will turn out to be. Very different directors, very different approach, but both are great. Both are doing amazingly well. To be a great director, never be satisfied with the way it's going to be told until it's made. Just keep trying to make it better and better and better and better. And also know that in which way are you trying to connect with the audience. Are you trying to connect, like, if I want to make many more films, and I think from what I've learned from my journey from Skyforce, from whatever I've worked earlier, I would emotionally want to tap my audience. My idea is to make the audience feel that I can be this guy. Or what if I was in this situation? That's not what exactly I could do with Skyforce, because not everybody can be an Air Force officer. But I hope some people are inspired and want to be in one. But I would say that I would like to tap the emotional side of my audience where they feel one with the film, that they're feeling that, oh, you know what, this is relatable to me. But some people are tapping them with great visuals, some people are tapping them with great action, different mediums. We all have stories to share, but how do we make it into an experience is what makes us a good director.
It's beautiful to hear the respect and appreciation you have for so many of the people that you worked with, and clearly you've learnt a lot.
A lot.
In 10 or 15 years time, when you've made so many movies, and we looked back and I had someone else here, maybe your first AD now, and they said, yes, Abhishek sir was like this. What are you doing now, and what do you hope to do for someone to call you a great director?
It would be better to ask them, because I don't know. I don't know how to talk about my style much. But I would say I'm somebody who is, if, yeah, I think my style would be, if I have visualized something in my head, I want to perfect that on camera. Until I see what I visualized, I keep at it. And my style would be just, yeah, again, it's extremely collaborative, because I've learned from a lot of people. So hear a lot of things out, and then make sure that what I'm getting right now from the particular scene is in some way enhancing the product or helping my story go ahead. So yeah, I would just treat the film and the scene both separately and together. So how is each scene contributing to the film, and how is each scene standing by itself? So I would want to make each scene a film.
How do you sort of sit in front of a or sit behind a camera looking at a scene and visualize what goes on the box office? How do you create that translation? Because when it comes to editing, when it comes to if there's any sort of like special effects, if there's any sort of like certain camera angles you're working, how, do you do that process, or how
So
do you actually make that
So
translation?
while you're reading the script and while you're scripting, you can still think of box office. While you're editing, you could still think of box office. But when you're on set, if you're thinking that, then you're not making the genuine film what you want to make. See, if I connect with the audience, more people come in, I'll get the money. But if I think about the money part of it to make a scene, then I'm never going to work for it. It's not going to happen creatively. I have to just make sure that I'm working to connect with the audience with that given scene, and that will in turn give me the box office. While making a film, a director can never be thinking about the money part of it, because he has to focus about the story part of it. He has to focus on the story. He has to focus that, okay, how will this scene impact my story and my journey on a given audience? How would they feel about this whole part that I'm showing right now? At that point, I'm not like, oh, will they buy a ticket to see this scene? Will they pay the money to see this? No, that's not. That's happened when we decided, okay, this is a script that we want to make. And that'll again happen once we have all the material and we'll put it together. We'll edit it in a way, we'll put the music, we'll make it a little more commercial. But while you're shooting, you have to be very dedicated to, okay, what this was my script, this is what I wanted of my script. Now let's make that more impactful for the audience, for the experience of it. And we can't think about numbers on that given day. Let's put it into perspective. You make a war strategy before war and you conclude after war. But when you're at war, you're not making strategy, you're fighting it. So when we are on set, we're just getting the best of us onto the camera, and like we're just trying to give our best to get the best out of everybody on set to get the best product there. But we are not at that moment thinking of, oh, will this work? It's, will this connect?
The way you explain that process, it was sort of it's how I think it should be done, or as an outsider looking in. But from what you hear sometimes about the industry, about the so many influences that happen to, as you said, the producer has to make a profit somewhere, and to have the stories that you tell, and to translate the creative piece, and then quantify that into some kind of financial success, is is someone that is more financially sort of focused. I find that really difficult, because how would I evaluate the value of the creative process above and beyond just looking at the people, the cast, the director, and some of the flavors of what makes things great? It doesn't necessarily mean that people will connect with that story. But you're saying, actually, don't worry about that. That's my job. I will focus on the connection.
Yeah.
All the other players play their part.
Yeah, there are different, like the producer would mainly worry about the finance part of it. That doesn't make me say that the director doesn't need to bother about it and he can make a film whatever he wants. And if like it'll not make profit, it'll impact me, it'll not be a good film. Even if it's technically a good film and whatever, but if it's not making the money or not, it's still not the best film that you made. Despite of the craft could have been the amazing in that. So having said that, there was a different question that you asked me earlier today, or it was on the sheet, that do we change a scene sometimes when we feel that it's very expensive? So, yes, we do that not on the day. We would like to do that on the prep stage. Okay, you know what? This scene, this is the main reason. I actually want to pass this message on this given day in my film, for my film and my story to go ahead. I'm doing it in a grand way. And can I actually do it in a different way where the message is passed with the same impact, but can I cut cost? There are 100 ways of doing it. You have to make that choice whether this is the scene. There are certain scenes where you do spend that money because those become the spectacle, that's where you put it in your trailer, that's what the audience is coming into. But there are certain passage scenes which are just in the film to just take the scene forward. That's where you work on, that's where you cut the budget. Basically, it has to take my story from point A to point B, shoot it quickly, be on the actors, take close-ups, get into the story, get ahead. We are just getting the this is just a carrier. So that's how we treat scenes differently. But all of this cannot be done on the set, has to ideally be done in the prep stage. So for example, if I tell you of Skyforce only, when we attacked on Pakistan, it had actually happened early morning at 6 o'clock before the sunrise. This is one thing which we really requested the producers, and the Dinesh Vijan is the best producer that we, okay, I would call him one of the best because I have not worked with too many, but I know for a director, my producer is one of the best producers that you have, because he will give anything and everything for a director's vision. He's not going to hold you back. He's not going to tie you with finances. He's going to have those discussions with you earlier and understand where we're going to pump in the money and where it's required. And then he backs you, he supports you, he is the best that you can work with right now. So we wanted to shoot a certain sequence only in magic hour. So magic hour is before sunrise or post sunset when there is blue light. So the whole attack that we have shot on Pakistan, where we blew a lot of planes, where we had a huge set, was shot only for 2 hours every day. So that was a big cost for the producers because we shot it for 4 days, I guess, shot it for 4 days, only 2 hours a day. The producer expects us to shoot for 12 hours at least every day and get the material out. But having that kind of a producer who supports you is like, if you guys can do this in these many days and get your vision out, go ahead. So that's where you spend the money. You come to another smaller attack where we know, okay, you know what, this is just, we want to tell the audience that this attack had actually happened, but doesn't have a significant part on my main leads and the story I'm trying to tell. Because Air Force and India, Pakistan is a big journey, right? I'm telling about Tabby. So that scene, how I'll shoot it with lesser resources and save my money for my producer. That's what we work on in prep, and that's what we go with on shoot.
We were talking about this just before the show, and I was referencing this really good Joe Rogan episode with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and they were talking about their journey as directors and producers, and they were citing that because today people's attention spans are so much shorter, and they're also competing with multiple screens, because when you're watching TV at home, which is
You
what
still
most
have the
people are
phone.
doing, you still have the phone, you might have the
100%.
laptop up, you might have an iPad somewhere, someone else might have a phone that you're looking at whilst you have the movie in the background.
Yeah.
So to help the audience with that journey, you have to tell the plot multiple times. You have to grab their attention earlier on in the movie, instead of having a classic sort of build up to a climactic sort of scene and a twist, and then you bring the movie down to the ending. You probably have to have multiple climaxes or multiple crescendos. I would imagine if you've got multiple climaxes or multiple crescendos, you're going to have multiple action scenes, more special effects. It's going to increase the budgets. So therefore, I would think as a producer, you'd be more conservative about their creative outlet, because you want an element of certainty around a storyline. So maybe you see the bigger budgets going towards the Marvel movies because you know that storyline will work. There's already a brand name around it. You're already bringing back an incredible cast. So you're happy to pump a lot of money into it. Now, of course, that's a very Hollywood kind of process. And admittedly, it might not be the same for audiences here. But what we do know is that attention spans are falling. So has that ever played a part in your creative outlet, or you're still focusing on connecting with the audience?
No, you can't ignore that. You surely can't ignore that because yes, we have our attention spans have dropped drastically. Like when we all, yeah, when I'm also watching a film, if it doesn't grab me for a longer time, I do remove my phone sometimes. You cannot ignore that part of it. But having said that, but if you are very confident of on what you're making, then there's a Dhurandhar which was 3.5 hours, and it's the highest grossing Indian film of all time. He did cater to us in that way that he kept giving twists and turns and plots. Every character was defined so well. So you have to just keep your audience very engaged. You can't let them lose. Earlier on films, we didn't have this kind of a burden where audience were like so like I would what would you call them, like, yeah, the attention is such a big a problem that they would just sit through a nice scene if it's going on and on. But right now, they just want to go to the conclusion of the scene, that why is this scene there? And they'll come out and they'll be like, Acha, ye scene kyu tha? The film was 10 minutes longer, the film was 20 minutes longer. Nobody had these kind of conversations earlier. But right now, because of the attention span, this is a big problem. We have to keep the content interesting through and through. That doesn't determine the duration. The duration will always be determined by the kind of concept that you have. If you have a high concept that's running for 3.5 hours, you can make a Durandar and the audience will watch it twice. You could make a film which is 1 hour 50 minutes and people would still be like Borua. So that just tells you that it's not the length, it's what you had to offer.
Very fair point, because as you say, 3.5 hours. It's and all I could hear for even for 3.5 weeks was this movie was the best movie
Yeah,
we have to watch it. We have to watch it.
it's an
So,
amazing film.
and actually interesting, my wife was saying that we have to watch it in the theater because we'll get the full experience and we'll get the sound system. But You don't really hear that nowadays about people going to the theater to watch a specific movie. You tend to see, well, okay, this is coming out. It'll be out on Netflix soon, or it'll be out on Prime soon. We'll just watch it at home. Is the impact of Netflix and Prime cannibalizing the theater experience, or do you think there's something else going on as to why people aren't going to
So
the
this
theater
is
as
this
much?
conversation would be a little long, and this would be a huge conversation. I would say that, see, yeah, 100% they are impacting in good ways and bad ways both, because see, we have other platforms where we can put our films and we can put all the web shows are going there, so it's giving work to people and all of that. But the problem happened, the major problem in the industry happened during COVID, because in COVID people sat home. They couldn't go out to restaurants. They had no work. Everything was shut. Nobody was working from home initially. We were just sitting home trying to learn how to cook or watching content. So everything that was there from whichever country, we consumed the content, and suddenly everybody thought, oh, you know what, people are going to go crazy and consuming these kind of. No, bro, we are not in COVID right now, so we don't need so much content because people cannot consume it. They're not sitting in front of the TV for 8 hours. They're working for 10 hours, they're sleeping for 8 hours, course for like maybe another 3 hours. You have 45 minutes to watch something with your wife or with your family. That's what you're left with from having 8 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours in COVID. So the way we thought, or the way people thought that content would be, uh, I would say, consumed, was very different in COVID, and I think, got confused that this is how it's going to be. But it was never going to be that. It was never pre-COVID. It would never be post-COVID, because everybody has a life. Everybody needs to do their normal work. So we can't make so much content. Then suddenly there was a dearth of content. Like, there was so much content which everybody was making because people want content. And now suddenly the content is out there. People are not there to watch it because they've gone back to their lives, and now they've become extremely selective. Oh, have I heard of the show? Have 10 people watched it? Is it good? Only then I'm going to start giving that 45 minutes that I'm left with every day to this show. Otherwise, there are 20 other shows. Earlier, it was like in COVID, let's watch this, finish it today, let's watch that, finish it today. Let's watch everything and finish it today. But right now, you have only 45 minutes. So you're like, no, 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 no. Half the time, you're just thinking that, should I watch this? Will it be worth my time? Your 45 minutes have gone scrolling what to watch. So that's where the time of the audiences have gone. This didn't take people away from the theaters, is what I think. Movies were always meant to be mass entertainers. When you go for an opera, the ticket starts at 5,000 rupees. Elite audience will be sitting here to, it goes to 5 lakh. So the way they're sitting. Movie was not meant to be that. Movie was for everybody's, it was a mass entertainer for every class of person, which has become very difficult right now because of the rates of everything. I understand that, okay, today if there's a multiplex, they have to pay huge rents, they have to recover that rent. Hardly any movies are working, but it's a circle that we are going into. Today, if I have to go and watch a film on a weekend, it's going to cost me 1,000, 1,012, maybe 1,200 per person, which is a lot on a common man. Common man, if he stops watching a film, there will be no star. A middle class person never makes a hero. He never makes a superstar. He never. We are too consumed and busy in our own lives. It's that mass audience who you see outside a Mannat or a Galaxy today, who make them Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan. And right now, those masses are only deprived of watching that cinema because it's become really heavy on their pockets. So, uh, also, it's the value, it's the investment versus return. Right now, when you're going and watching a film for 1,200 bucks versus when you're watching a film for 200 bucks, your expectation of it is way higher. When you go to maybe a eatery and you buy a burger for like 200 bucks, if it's tasty, you enjoy it. You pay 1,200 for that same burger. Now you're expecting gourmet shit in it. Now you don't want anything normal. You want only avocados right there. Now there is that normal burger also. So for me, the audience is paying only premium to watch every film now. Not every director is making that gourmet shit. If some directors are making nice, heartfelt, small films, but the audiences are paying for that kind of money when they're going and absorbing or consuming these simple cinema. So that's where people say, oh, this should go to OTT. No, as a director, if I'm making a small story, I was trying to make it for the big screen still, because all these kind of films that don't work today were working previously. Okay, earlier in a film, hero heroine met, looked into each other's eyes, cut to a song in Maldives, cut to a song in Mauritius. Nobody is questioning because they've just gone there for entertainment. They have paid 60 rupees balcony, they're gonna have 10 rupees samosa. It's gonna cost them 100 bucks. They've gone with a girlfriend or a friend or a family. It's just watching the actors having fun and all of that. Right now, there is a lot of pressure on us because there's a lot of money that people have to spend to come watch what we offer. So today, when I take my mother to watch a film, which I do very often, her main idea is as soon as she sits there, popcorn, she wants to sit with a tub. The day I tell her it's costing me 700 bucks, she's going to be like, मुझे तो पिक्चर देखना अच्छा ही नहीं लगता. It's not पिक्चर देखना अच्छा नहीं लगता. पॉपकॉर्न खाना है 700 रुपए का है, मुझे वो नहीं देना है. We don't have a single screen where you can go watch a film in 200 rupees still. There are only and only multiplexes which cost you a certain amount. And it's mainly in Bollywood. South has a cap on their ticket rates. South has a cap on their samosa rates. South has a cap on their popcorn rates. They still get the mass audience because once you are entering that theater, okay, 199 is a ticket, 99 is a popcorn, 99 is a samosa. So okay, chalo 500 per person. Right now, if you go to a Bollywood film on a weekend, a good ticket would cost you 799, good popcorn would cost you 599, cold drink would cost you 499. So you don't know how much you're spending. I'm spending way more to have popcorn versus sitting with my wife and having sushi. And I can still maybe manage both still in my life, but there are people who cannot.
I think people would be appreciative that you are bringing this up, because I think it's important that as a director, you're influencing the highest power. Of course, if a producer would have an influence over a multiplex cinema, they can do something about it. You can influence that, and I don't disagree with anything you
Yeah.
said, because it's as you were saying the prices in India. I was quite surprised how high they were actually.
Yeah.
I remember when I was with my parents, every Friday night we would go to the cinema and we watch whatever. It didn't actually matter. My father loved reading the newspaper every day, so he would look at the reviews of the movies, and he would find out, the ones that are doing quite well. He'd say, right, today or this week we're going to watch this movie, and we never talked about the cost. We were fortunate in that respect, but we weren't particularly wealthy at all. We certainly had to be cost conscious generally, but the fact that we never had to talk about the cost, but now we have to. Every time I'm going to the cinema, I'm like, do we have to watch this at the cinema? Can't we just wait for it to come out on Netflix or Prime? Which brings me to my second point, which is that everything you just said was in the context of that people aren't going to be deprived of the movie, the content, because at some point it'll be released on Netflix. At some point it will be released on Prime. I'm saying these two subscriptions. By the way, there's many subscriptions. Subscribe to whatever you like, but there's at some point it will hit those, and you're paying for it already. So you're what you're the premium cost is in the context of you're going to get this anyway. You have to what you're paying for is the time differential. So it comes back to how you're spending time. So I guess you as a director have to think, and as you articulated so well, that if I'm going to make someone pay for all of this to come to the theater and watch this movie, it better be damn good.
Exactly. That's too much pressure on every director today. That's too much pressure because the experience is not a mass experience anymore. And anybody who's coming in is actually spending a lot to watch a film today. And we have somehow, if this can be reworked or recalculated, it will really help to get our industry back. I don't know if you know, here in India, we have Tuesday offers right now. So Friday, if it's a good film, it does well on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday is a slight dip. Tuesday, it goes up. And Wednesday is a great dip. So the only reason why you're making more box office money on Tuesday is because your ticket is for 99, your popcorn is for 99. So not that they're not doing it. They have done it on only one day of the week, the Tuesday happens. And I generally go and watch a few films on Tuesday because the theaters are much more like the audience is there, it's packed, and you see that audience back which are not being able to consume your cinema coming back on those days. So, if not just a Tuesday, can we have a Tuesday, Thursday? Can we have a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday? Can we make it a little more accessible for these people to come watch our cinema? And they would. I'm telling you, everybody would. It's just we are just making it so heavily unavailable for them that they are thinking of other avenues to just get entertainment. But if we just make it again very accessible to them and very affordable to them, people will come back.
Abhishek, I've really enjoyed your time throughout this
Yeah,
conversation, and I've enjoyed the raw passion that
yeah.
you have clearly for the industry. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your story. Now, before we end the show, we always have one question, which I'm hoping you were told beforehand. You've had a little bit of time to prepare for. But we ask every guest the same question just before we finish the show. And that question is, if your 18-year-old self
I
was
have a
have
I read it. I have a
it's
very
coming.
simple answer for that.
It's
I didn't
coming.
know I had to like actually elaborate into it, but yeah, go ahead.
So if your 18-year-old self was having a conversation with your 80-year-old self, what would that conversation be about?
It's very strange. I don't know if this is what you expect, but the 80-year-old, they would just say you did well. It's very simple because I have no regrets of what I did or where I came from or where I have reached today. Coming from a family which had no connections into the film, starting off as an intern with D2R, joining Maddock, becoming a director for them, directing Akshay Kumar, who's we didn't talk about him, but I love him the most in the world. He's amazing, and thank you for doing the film for us, sir. But yeah, so I would say that what do I say? I would just say that, bro, you did well, man, because coming from a middle class family, starting where I started, reaching where I've already reached by 80, I'm assuming that we'll have these interviews a few more times, and I would have done many better films and many more films. So, yeah, just one suggestion, yeah, the 80-year-old would tell the 18-year-old start saving a little early because the world has COVID, the world has weird things happening. So, yeah, just save a little money so that you live happily each day because not each day is going to be the same. You're not going to earn or you're not going to be as you are on a given day on another day. So yeah, just save a little for the heydays. Apart from that, no regrets. Yeah, lovely life, lovely time. Have been great.
Oh, so that's probably one of the best answers we've had to that, because it's for me. I mean, you kind of mentioned, I'm not sure what you're expecting. It's more, the content isn't really, it's obviously personal, it's sort of whatever it is. But for me, I'm focusing on how you answer the question, because most people jump to the 80-year-old self and say and give advice. But a few people do jump to the 18-year-old self and just think about that bright-eyed world that they were looking at, with the hunger, with the passion, with the energy to just do whatever they want to do. And maybe they weren't decided at the time what they wanted to do, and they're just figuring it out. And there's a purity in that curiosity. And I hope the audience are picking up on this. It's interesting insight into your mind and getting to know who you are by the positions that you take. Because then, for me, what I get a lot out of that answer is that you're clearly proud of your career today, as you should be. You're going on to do some amazing things, and we're excited for you. We'll be watching, we'll be listening, we'll be going to the theater. If we can get those prices down, I'll be grateful. I can
Yeah,
bring
the
mine.
next thing that you have to do when somebody else is sitting on this seat, just ask them this one question: that why, what stops them from going to the theaters? And I'm going to watch each of your interview to understand, because I also want to know from a lot of people that what is stopping them, because we all want to watch movies. We all want to watch movies. So I just want you to ask a few of your next guests that what stops them from going to a theater today, and why so much pressure that the film has to be great. Because we have seen every kind of film in the past, appreciated for the film that it was. They were not the best films. We laugh on them right now. But at that given point, we didn't burden that film with being the best film that it had to be. So if we can just, I have a question for you, which I told you
Oh
I'll be
gosh.
asking.
Oh gosh.
Why
Okay.
do you do this? You are an accountant. Why have you started this? What's your motive? You're coming from London. I'm sure it's not easy. You're traveling all the way. You're setting this whole thing up. You're calling somebody. You're feeding me. So
Absolutely.
you're doing a lot to just have this interview.
Well, I believe it's a privilege to have great conversations. And for me, I've always been a great conversationist. I've always loved asking questions, understanding what makes people tick. That's just me as a person. How Everyday Empires came about was that, a little bit about myself. About 5 years ago or so, I took over the family business after my father passed, and I am a chartered accountant. I went on to go into a slightly different aspect of the finance industry. I went into something called private equity and corporate finance. It's your worst nightmare. I was suited and booted every day,
It
and
is.
I love what I did. But duty calls, and duty to your family, I think, is the highest duty you can possibly have. And when my father passed very suddenly, he left behind a small sort of accountancy practice in West London, something that he'd been building for 30 years. And I'd never been part of the business before, but I respected ultimately what he had built.
Yeah.
But then when he passed away on a Saturday, and I got up on that Monday after, of course, grieving and being very upset. And I had no idea. I just looked at my wife, Yesha, and I just said to her, I think we have to go to the office. And she looked at me as if I was mad. Like, why are you going to the office for your father just passed?
Yeah.
Look after your mother, look after your brother. And I said, I just feel I have to go there.
Wow.
Can I just go there?
You've never been there before.
I've been there before, but he'd been in the same place actually for 30 years, so I knew where it was.
No, but you were not working for him, or
I wasn't working for
you had
him,
nothing to do with the working part of the office.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
And so as I came up to the door, I grabbed my father's keys. I just assumed I'd know how to open the door. So I came up to the door, and there was a keypad there. And I went, I've got all these keys. These keys are useless. The keypad is there.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what the code was. So I called my mother. She didn't know what the code was. And I went, how am I going to solve this problem? I can't even get into the office. So I had the cleaner's number from like 5 years ago. So I called her and she said, oh yeah, I'm actually working. I'm going to be at the office in 10 minutes. I'll come. So just completely fortuitous. And she helped us unlock the door. And my father had ordered a chair. He actually ordered 2 chairs, one to go to my family home and one to come to the office. They were like a matching pair of Game of Thrones chairs, but it was unboxed. So I kind of looked around and I said, I have no idea how this office is organized, but I can put together a chair. So I put together his chair, I put it behind the desk, and I sat in front of it, sat behind it. And I went, okay, what's the next step? Okay, well, I'll switch on the computer, and just kept on going through this procedural steps. And I found that a nice way to grieve. I didn't just inherit his business, but also his role in the clients' lives. And as a small accountancy practice at the time, you really play an impactful role in people's families, because they're asking you big questions like, should I take this mortgage for my next home? Should I invest in this business? Should I buy a car? How do I make this all tax efficient? All these questions are some of the biggest financial questions these people ever have. I mean, how many homes are you going to buy? I felt the weight of the responsibility quickly, but because I was qualified, I could sit back on the analysis and just take that part. I found that part easy. The hard part I found was the emotional side of things. I was giving the analysis and I was, patting myself on the back saying, oh, I'm doing quite well here. But some clients were taking the advice and going on. Some clients were driving their businesses forward, and some weren't. And I thought, I put it down to, so, okay, maybe some people are more driven than others. Just because you run a business doesn't mean you're really passionate. It's okay. But then I started to get agitated because I'm an advisor to this person. I want them to be successful. If I want to be a true advisor, I have to engage not just with the business side, but also with the emotional side.
Yeah.
How do I motivate them and inspire them to be better than who they are today? And that might be above my station as an accountant, but it's how I felt, because it was very quick that I wasn't just an accountant. I was, as I said, I was advising these people's lives.
Yeah.
So how I got these people inspired and motivated was I started telling stories of other clients. Oh, look at this person. They're in the same industry. This is how they overcame this problem. You can do it too. They just live over there. Do you know what? I'll introduce you to them. And I started getting quite a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment out of improving people's positions. And
That's the creative part of your job.
exactly. And then at some point I said to myself, and we're very fortunate. At the time, we looked after about 750 clients. We're very fortunate now to look after about 1,250. So we've grown well, and this is part of an amazing team and my wonderful wife, who's been unbelievably supportive.
I'll also have to praise my wife. She's also amazing and wonderful because I have to go home to her. She's amazing.
She is amazing. And we've got great people like Alan as well, who've become part of the team more recently. And shout out to Alan, he's fantastic.
Alan.
Alan, we love you, truly. But it's it's a privilege to work with great people, as you have experienced.
Yeah.
As I told more and more stories, I started to get a little bit more dissatisfied, because I was sort of going, I have one person in front of me. I'm telling this one story to this one person. You can see where I'm going.
Oh.
And so I started
Interesting.
saying, okay, well, how do I get this story out to the masses? And will this person be willing to tell their story in detail? So it started off with telling my clients their stories and hoping that their story will inspire others in some form or another. Now we've been fortunate that we've got a little bit of I dare say popularity. You've got a little bit of a following. So now I wanted to expand that into, well, okay, what concepts am I really bringing out here? And that's why we interviewed, well, we continue to interview some creatives, because we have some fantastic clients who are influencers who have gone on to do amazing things and had billions of views across their videos, which I still now can't comprehend. But there's always that understanding of, okay, well, if you want to be an influencer, how do you become that person? And a lot of the time it's around setting a structure in place. If you want to become a director, how do you become this person? It's about setting a structure in place. This structure that you're putting in place is the entrepreneurialism. So you might
Wow.
not consider yourself an entrepreneur, but there are a lot of elements of being
But
an
yeah,
entrepreneur that successful people have. And what I mean by making it relatable is to highlight all these things constantly, so that people really understand if they want to go to the next level in their lives, whatever position they're in, that's what they have to do.
oh, lovely.
So that's why I do what I do. Because I think, again, it's a privilege to have great conversations, and it's a privilege to listen in on them.
Yeah, because I've never attended a podcast. I don't even have heard many of them. So for me, I just wanted to know what's the perspective. Why does one do this?
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's like an interview. It's an interview, but yeah, I just wanted to know because I saw a few glimpses of things that you have done earlier, and they were like none of them were related to the industry. So I was like, okay, now suddenly has an industry guy. Yeah, but I get your point.
Abhishek, thank you so much,
Lovely
sir.
chatting with you.
No, I really
This is a
appreciate your
great
time.
one, man.
I appreciate you.
Had
Thank you
fun.
very much.